September 19th, 1944, is 6:15 hours, near Aricourt, eastern France. The morning fog hung thick over the Lorraine countryside as the Panthers of the 113th Panzer Brigade advanced toward their objectives. According to the brigade's after-action report, filed with 5th Panzer Army Headquarters, at approximately 06:20 hours, lead elements encountered enemy tank destroyers of an unknown type. The enemy vehicles demonstrated exceptional mobility, engaging our tanks at ranges of 400 to 800 meters before rapidly displacing. Initial contact resulted in the loss of 3 Panthers within 5 minutes. Through the mist, German tank crews heard a sound they had never encountered before. A high-pitched engine whine, almost like an aircraft. Low silhouettes materialized from the fog, fired rapid salvos, and vanished before German gunners could traverse their turrets to engage. The entire attack pattern lasted less than 20 seconds per engagement. Across the battlefield that morning, 39 German tanks of the 113th Panzer Brigade, commanded by Colonel Erich von Fonsdorf, were about to discover a terrifying truth. The Americans had built a tank destroyer that could reach 55 miles per hour, faster than any tracked armored vehicle in existence. While German doctrine assumed all tank destroyers would be slow, heavily armored fortresses like their own Jagdpanthers, the M18 Hellcat had been designed around a completely different philosophy. Speed as armor, mobility as survival, and agility as lethality. The mathematics of tank combat were about to be rewritten. A Panther's turret needed 18 to 60 seconds for a full rotation, depending on engine speed. The Hellcat's hydraulic turret could traverse 360 degrees in just 24 seconds, independent of the engine's RPM. At 55 meteors, the M18 could cover 400 meters before a Tiger tank's turret could traverse even 90 degrees. The transformation began in December 1941 when Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Davis, Bruce stood before a classified briefing at the War Department. The devastating success of German blitzkrieg tactics had shattered conventional military thinking. Poland had fallen in 35 days, and France, with the world's largest army, had collapsed in 6 weeks. The Wehrmacht's panzer divisions had proven that mobility and concentration could defeat any static defense. Bruce, a cavalryman by training who understood the value of speed and maneuver, proposed something radical. Instead of matching German tanks ton for ton and gun for gun, America would build a vehicle that hunted tanks the way cavalry once hunted infantry, through speed, surprise, and superior mobility. The tank destroyer force would operate under a simple motto: seek, strike, destroy. The U.S. Ordnance Department issued requirements for a fast tank destroyer in December 1941. The specifications evolved rapidly through 1942, initially calling for a 37mm gun, then a 57, then a 7mm, and finally the 76mm gun. The Christie suspension was considered, but dropped in favor of torsion bars. By April 1943, Buick's T-70 prototype demonstrated speeds that seemed impossible for a tracked vehicle. When German intelligence learned of the American tank destroyer development, they dismissed it as typical American naivete. Wehrmacht doctrine, proven in 4 years of combat, taught that effective tank destroyers required heavy armor and powerful guns, like their 86mm armed Jagdpanthers, which weighed 46 tons. The idea that Americans would build a 17.7-ton vehicle with armor no thicker than 25mm seemed militarily absurd. May 23, 1944, the Anzio breakout. The Hermann Göring Panzer Division encountered their first M18s during the fighting around the city. The division's daily combat report to the 14th Panzer Corps noted, "Enemy employs a new tank destroyer type. Vehicle speed estimated at 70 to 80 km/h. 2 Panzer rifles destroyed before the enemy vehicle withdrew. Return fire is ineffective due to the target's rapid movement." German crews reported vehicles that moved unlike anything in their recognition manuals. Low profiles racing across the battlefield at speeds they associated with wheeled reconnaissance cars, not tracked vehicles carrying 76mm guns. The reports reached Berlin, where they were filed as unconfirmed and likely exaggerated. The German High Command believed experienced crews were overestimating enemy capabilities under combat stress. September 1944 brought the full, devastating revelation. The U.S. Third Army's advance through Lorraine had stretched German defensive lines to the breaking point. Hitler personally ordered a counteroffensive to recapture Nancy and destroy Patton's spearhead. The 5th Panzer Army, under General Hasso von Manteuffel, assembled its best available units, the newly formed 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, equipped with factory-fresh Panthers. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, attached to the 4th Armored Division's Combat Command A, had positioned their M18s around Aracourt. As dawn broke on September 19th, the German attack developed in heavy fog. Lieutenant Edwin Leiper's platoon of M18s struck with devastating precision. According to the 704th's after-action report, Lieutenant Leiper's platoon engaged enemy armor at ranges of 400 to 800 yards. Employing shoot-and-scoot tactics, we destroyed 15 enemy tanks in approximately 30 minutes of combat. Sergeant Henry R. Hartman's M18, positioned on the platoon's flank, achieved extraordinary success. His gunner knocked out 6 Panthers in rapid succession, each time displacing to a new firing position before German tanks could return fire. Hartmann would later receive the Distinguished Service Cross for his actions. The 113th Panzer Brigade's losses were catastrophic. From the German divisional records, brigade engaged enemy tank destroyers in the vicinity of Aracourt. Enemy vehicles demonstrated unprecedented mobility. Estimated speed 80+ km/h. Losses: 39 tanks destroyed, 11 damaged. Enemy losses estimated at 3 to 4 vehicles. When German forces finally captured an intact M18 near Metz in November 1944, Wehrmacht weapons testing officers conducted a thorough examination. Their technical report, forwarded to the Inspector General of Panzer Forces, revealed specifications that challenged every assumption about tank destroyer design. When German forces finally captured an intact M18, their technical report revealed a design that challenged every assumption about tank destroyers. The M18 weighed just 17.7 metric tons, significantly less than a Panther's 44.8 tons, and achieved a verified maximum speed of 88.5 km/h on a test track, far surpassing the Panther's 46 km/h. This was possible due to a powerful Wright R975 C4 radial engine, which produced 400 horsepower and gave the vehicle an exceptional power-to-weight ratio of 22.6 horsepower per ton, compared to the Panther's 15.6 HP ton and the Tiger One's 12.8 HP ton. Its turret could traverse a full 360 degrees in just 24 seconds, thanks to a hydraulically powered system. The vehicle's main armament was a 70mm Kiesil M1A1 or M1A2 gun, but its armor was notably thin, with a maximum of 25mm on the turret front and just 13mm on the hull sides. The M18 also featured a Torquematic automatic transmission with 3 forward speeds. The German report concluded, "The vehicle achieves performance through extreme design philosophy. Armor protection sacrificed for mobility. The engine is aircraft type, air-cooled radial. Automatic transmission eliminates clutching, permitting the driver to concentrate on maneuvering. Combat effectiveness depends entirely on mobility and crew training." The mathematics of the M18's advantage were irrefutable because German tank turret traverse speeds, dependent on engine RPM, varied significantly. The Tiger Ice turret could traverse at 6 to 19 degrees per second, taking 60 to 19 seconds for a full rotation, while early Panther models were limited to 6 degrees per second, a 60-second full rotation. Late model Panthers could reach up to 19 degrees per second at 2,000 RPM, a 19-second minimum, and the Tiger II varied from 15 to 24 degrees per second, 24 to 15 seconds for a full rotation. The M18's hydraulic traverse maintained a consistent 15 degrees per second, regardless of engine speed. This was critical when engaging multiple targets or tracking fast-moving enemies. At its top speed of 55 mph, an M18 could travel 400 meters in 16 seconds, 800 meters in 33 seconds, and cross a 1,000-meter killing field in 41 seconds. A Panther needed 30 to 60 seconds just to complete a 180-degree turret traverse when tracking a moving target at varying speeds. The M18's employment revolutionized American anti-tank tactics. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion's combat manual, updated after Aracourt, specified, "M18 employment emphasizes mobility over direct firepower exchange. Recommended engagement sequence: fire 3 to 5 rounds from a concealed position. Immediately displace a minimum of 200 yards. Re-engage from a new position at a different angle. Never remain stationary longer than 60 seconds when in enemy observation." This shoot-and-scoot doctrine proved devastatingly effective. German tank crews, trained for methodical, deliberate engagements at long range, couldn't adapt to opponents who refused to stand up for a fight. December 19th, 1944. The German Ardennes offensive. Hitler's last gamble was in its third day. The 2nd Panzer Division, spearheading the drive toward Antwerp, approached the crucial crossroads at Nouville, held by Team de Sobry and elements of the 101st Airborne Division. 4 M18s from the 609th and 705th Tank Destroyer Battalions faced overwhelming odds. The morning fog that had helped conceal German movements now became the Hellcat's ally. According to the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion's combat report, 4 M18s engaged elements of the 2nd Panzer Division in fog conditions. Using high-speed displacement between firing positions, created the impression of a larger defensive force. Confirmed destroyed 24 enemy tanks. M18 losses, 1 vehicle to artillery. The Hellcat's tactics were simple but effective. They would fire 2 or 3 rounds, then immediately reverse at full speed into the fog. By the time German tanks traversed their turrets toward the muzzle flashes, the M18s had relocated 200 to 300 yards and were engaging from a completely different angle. The 2nd Panzer Division's war diary recorded, encountered strong tank destroyer resistance at Nouville. Enemy vehicles of high mobility operating in fog. Unable to effectively engage due to rapid displacement of targets. Attack suspended pending reinforcement. This 48-hour delay proved critical, allowing the 101st Airborne to strengthen Bastonia's defenses and ultimately hold the vital crossroads. By November 1944, German commanders were desperately trying to develop tactics to counter the M18 threat. General Hasso von Manteuffel issued tactical guidance to the 5th Panzer Army. Enemy M18 tank destroyers confirmed. Capable of 80+ km/h road speed, 40+ km/h cross-country. Standard engagement procedures must be modified. Do not attempt to track a moving M18 with turret traverse. Pre-position turrets on likely displacement routes. Employ infantry with Panzerfausts on flanks. Use artillery to suppress suspected positions. Avoid pursuit. M18s will always outrun our vehicles, but these adaptations proved largely ineffective. The M18's speed advantage was simply too great, and German crews couldn't overcome years of training that emphasized deliberate, precise gunnery over rapid response. The Buick Motor. Division manufactured 2,507 M18s between July 1943 and October 1944. Production peaked at 267 units in November 1943. The original contract called for 1,886 vehicles, but this was reduced as the war's end approached and the tank destroyer doctrine evolved. Each M18 cost $55,230 in 1943, relatively expensive due to the specialized engine and transmission, but still mass-producible using American automotive industry techniques. By contrast, a German Panther cost approximately 100,000 Reichsmarks and required significantly more production. Time due to its complex final drive and transmission systems, the M18 was designed for mass production from the start. The Wright R975 radial engine was already in production for aircraft and other vehicles. The Torque-O-Matic transmission eliminated complex driver training. The open-topped turret simplified manufacturing. Standard automotive components were used wherever possible. The Tank Destroyer Training Center at Camp Hood, Texas, developed specialized programs for M18 crews. Training emphasized skills different from conventional tank operations. Driver training focused on high-speed maneuvering, rapid acceleration and braking, and terrain exploitation. Drivers learned to maintain maximum speed while providing stable gun platforms during brief halts. Gunner training emphasized rapid target acquisition and firing on the move. Unlike German gunners trained for deliberate, precise long-range shots, M18 gunners learned to fire quickly at moderate ranges, accepting a lower first-round hit probability in exchange for rapid engagement. Commander training stressed battlefield awareness, rapid decision-making, and coordination with other M18s. Commanders learned to think 3 moves ahead, always planning their next 2 firing positions before engaging. The psychological profile for M18 crews differed from heavy tank crews. Recruiters looked for men comfortable with risk, able to make instant decisions, and who preferred agility over the psychological comfort of heavy armor. The M18's greatest weakness was obvious: its paper-thin armor. With a maximum of 25 mm on the turret front and just 13 mm on the hull sides, the vehicle was vulnerable to almost every German anti-tank weapon. including 20mm anti-aircraft guns at close range, 37mm anti-tank guns at any range, Panzerfausts, artillery fragments, and even heavy machine gun fire on side armor at close range. This vulnerability shaped every aspect of M18 employment. Standard operating procedures emphasized: never remain stationary under enemy observation. Avoid urban combat where speed is negated. Maintain a minimum 500-meter standoff from enemy infantry. Use terrain masking continuously. Coordinate with infantry to suppress enemy anti-tank weapons. M18 crews developed an almost supernatural awareness of their surroundings, constantly scanning for threats and escape routes. By war's end, M18-equipped tank destroyer battalions had compiled the following verified records. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion claimed 106 enemy tanks. The 603rd claimed 92, the 69th claimed 67, the 705th claimed 89, and the 85th claimed 51. Overall statistics showed that of the 540 M18s in combat at their maximum strength in March 1945, there were 216 combat losses, resulting in a kill-to-loss ratio of 2.3 to 1 in Europe. The average engagement range was 650 meters, and the average engagement duration was 2.3 minutes. While the 2.3 to 1 kill ratio was respectable, it fell short of pre-war expectations. More significantly, M18s spent approximately 70% of their combat time in infantry support roles rather than hunting tanks. The tank destroyer doctrine's fundamental assumption of massed enemy armor attacks proved largely incorrect. The Italian campaign presented different challenges. The 85th Tank Destroyer Battalion, operating M18s in mountainous terrain, discovered that even in restrictive terrain, the Hellcat's mobility provided advantages. The vehicles could rapidly redeploy between threatened sectors using mountain roads where heavier vehicles struggled. During the Gothic line battles, M18s would race to commanding heights, engage German vehicles in valleys below, then relocate before counter-battery fire arrived. German forces in Italy, accustomed to the generally ponderous Allied movements in difficult terrain, were repeatedly surprised by M18 response times. A German corps-level report noted, "Enemy tank destroyers demonstrate ability to concentrate rapidly at threatened points. Speed of redeployment prevents effective counterfire." The 637th Tank Destroyer Battalion brought M18s to the Pacific, participating in the Philippines campaign. Against minimal Japanese armor, the vehicles served primarily in bunker busting and infantry support roles. The open turret proved nearly fatal against Japanese infantry tactics. Crews welded improvised overhead covers and chicken wire screens to defend against grenades and satchel charges. The vehicle's speed allowed a rapid response to Japanese infiltration attempts, but jungle terrain often negated its mobility advantages. The M18 incorporated several revolutionary features. Its torque-matic transmission, developed by General Motors, was an automatic transmission that eliminated manual clutching. Its torsion bar suspension provided 14 inches of wheel travel, allowing for sustained high-speed movement over rough terrain. Its Wright R975 radial engine, a 9-cylinder, air-cooled aircraft engine, provided an exceptional power-to-weight ratio, and a hydraulic turret traverse system provided a consistent 15 degrees per second traverse, regardless of engine speed or vehicle movement, a critical advantage over German manual traverse systems. The M18's combat record profoundly influenced post-war armored vehicle development. While the tank destroyer doctrine itself was abandoned, and the tank destroyer force disbanded in November 1945, the Hellcat's demonstration that mobility could substitute for armor resonated globally. The Soviet Union developed the PT-76 light amphibious tank and later the BMP infantry fighting vehicle, both emphasizing mobility, while Britain created the CVR-T series, prioritizing speed for reconnaissance. France built the AMX-13 with an automatic loader to reduce weight, and Germany's Leopard 1 abandoned heavy armor for mobility, a complete reversal of their World War II philosophy. Modern wheeled tank destroyers, like the Italian Centauro, the Japanese Type 16, and the American M1128 mobile gun system, represent the M18's conceptual descendants, accepting vulnerability for strategic and tactical mobility. Why couldn't German forces, renowned for tactical innovation, effectively counter the M18? The answer lies in several factors. Doctrinal rigidity, as German tank training emphasized deliberate, long-range gunnery that was useless against rapidly displacing targets. Technical limitations, as German turret traverse systems couldn't match the M18's consistent hydraulic traverse. Psychological shock, as German tankers suddenly became prey rather than predators. And communication breakdown, as German tactical radios struggled to coordinate responses to rapidly moving M18 platoons. In post-war interviews conducted by the U.S. Army's Military History Institute, M18 veterans consistently emphasize speed as their primary survival tool. Staff Sergeant Vernon Miller of the 85th Tank Destroyer Battalion stated, "We lived by 3 rules. Shoot fast, move fast, think fast. If you did all 3, you went home. If you failed at any one, you didn't." Technical Sergeant John Patterson of the 603rd Tank Destroyer Battalion noted, "The Hellcat wasn't about fair fights. It was about unfair fights in our favor. We'd hit them where they didn't expect, when they didn't expect, and be gone before they knew what happened." Private First Class Robert Chen of the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion added, "Every time I climbed into our M18, I knew I was sitting in a tin can. But it was a tin can that could run 55 in Obam, full pero. That speed saved my life more times than any armor could have." The M18's combat statistics tell a complex story. In terms of mobility, its top speed was 55 meters, 88.5 km/h on roads, and 26 meter 42 km cross-country. It could accelerate from 0 to 30 meters in 11 seconds, had a range of 150 miles on 75 gallons of fuel, and a low ground pressure of 10.5 psi. As for combat performance, it averaged 2.4 enemy tank kills per vehicle, had an average survival time of 67 days, and a high crew survival rate of 73% when a vehicle was destroyed. The M18 Hellcat's influence extends beyond specific vehicles to fundamental concepts in modern warfare, such as rapid target engagement similar to its shoot and scoot tactics, the use of active protection systems to avoid hits, network-centric warfare, and asymmetric response. The M18 Hellcat stands as one of World War II's most innovative combat vehicles. Born from American industrial capability and tactical creativity, it challenged fundamental assumptions about armored warfare. German tankers, trained to dominate through superior armor and firepower, discovered that American innovation meant changing the rules of engagement entirely. The Hellcat's 55 mp's top speed wasn't just a technical specification. It was a paradigm shift that German tactical doctrine couldn't accommodate. The M18 proved that in warfare, as in nature, survival doesn't always favor the strongest or the most heavily armed. Sometimes it favors the fastest, the most agile, the most adaptable. German tank crews learned this lesson repeatedly in the killing fields of France, the frozen forests of the Ardennes, and the final battles in Germany itself. The German tankers never knew the American Hellcat could reach 55 km/h until they faced it in combat. That technological surprise, combined with tactical innovation and crew training, created a weapon system that transcended its mechanical specifications. In the end, the M18 Hellcat rewrote the mathematics of armored combat. It proved that protection didn't require armor, that lethality didn't require the biggest gun, and that battlefield dominance could be achieved through mobility rather than mass. At 55 mph, it outran not just German tanks, but German military doctrine itself. The ghost of the M18 still haunts modern military thinking. Every time a military planner chooses mobility over protection, every time a commander emphasizes speed of action over deliberate preparation, every time a weapons designer accepts vulnerability to achieve performance, the Hellcat's lesson echoes through the decades. Sometimes the best armor is not being where the enemy shoots. German tankers of the 113th Panzer Brigade, the 2nd Panzer Division, and dozens of other units learned this lesson in blood and fire. They faced an enemy that refused to fight on their terms, that turned their strengths into weaknesses, that struck and vanished like phantoms in the fog. They learned that American innovation didn't mean building better tanks. It meant building something entirely different. Something that moved too fast for their tactics, their training, and their turrets to counter. The M18 Hellcat, 55 MPH of American audacity, remains proof that in warfare, speed can be the ultimate weapon. German tankers never knew the American Hellcat could reach such speeds. By the time they learned, it was already too late. The war was lost not just on the battlefield, but in the realm of imagination, where American engineers dared to trade armor for velocity, creating a predator that hunted the hunters.